Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Welcome to another Quran study. Today we'll be reading from Surah 2, verse 183. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Fasting emphasized and modified. O you who believe, fasting is decreed for you, as it was decreed for those before you, that you may attain salvation. Specific days are designated for fasting. If one is ill or traveling, an equal number of other days may be substituted. Those who can fast, but with great difficulty, may substitute feeding one poor person for each day of breaking the fast. If one volunteers more righteous works, it is better. But fasting is the best for you if you only knew. So we can see that fasting is emphasized here. It's also been modified. And we can see from this verse, it was decreed for the people before, the submitters from the past, that, each received their scripture at, whatever time they were alive. And this was the same message and same rights and duties and gifts, really, that the prophets brought, and guidance from God, as well as mercy. And we can see God's continuous mercy, and one reason why we can and should be appreciative for His continued mercy, because we can also see how fasting is modified. Those who can fast but with great difficulty may substitute by feeding one poor person for each day of breaking the fast. However, if you volunteers more righteous works, it is better. But fasting is the best. So even if you're maybe traveling or something, or even if you're ill, God is most gracious. So you can substitute with what the criteria here, with what God tells us. However, if you can push through it one way or another, that would be even better. But we can see God's mercy here, and fasting is important. It's one of the minimums, as well as our clarifying messenger. One way he referred to it as, we have the contact prayers, the charity, zakah, obligatory charity, zakah, and the fasting. And, among these, we know that they were all given to the previous prophets. So in the same way, just like the contact prayers, it's the same. Just like with fasting, it's the same thing with the contact prayers. The contact prayers were decreed, and they were given to us by Abraham, started with Abraham. So they were already in existence. Ramadan is the month during which the Quran was revealed, providing guidance for the people, clear teachings, and the statuette book. Those of you who witness this month shall fast therein. Those who are ill or traveling may substitute the same number of other days. God wishes for you convenience, not hardship, that you may fulfill your obligations and to glorify God for guiding you and to express your appreciation. So this is another way for us to not just taming the white horse, this body, but also expressing our appreciation to our Creator. Because if we like what was told to David, work righteousness to show your appreciation, because people can say that they're appreciative and this and that, but if they're not doing their contact prayers, if they're not working righteousness, or they're not fasting, and they know full well about these things, and that's not really being appreciative. It's actually not just that. It's neglecting yourself, because these are things that your soul needs, and just how we're quick to eat food for the body. We should have that same mentality, and for our soul, because that's the real life, and all this is just the illusion, albeit it seems really real, but really we know from the Quran that the real life starts after this one. And if we can just imagine like the verses that say how when the vision is sharpened. So we may think our vision is sharp right now, okay, we can see, and things are very clear and stuff, but we can only imagine how more intense, and what it would be like. So, but thank God, He gives us ways, and this is more proof that this book is fully detailed, and it has everything. I mean, if you look at, some of the specific details in this book, the criterion, and if you look in Surah 2, Surah 4, I mean, other surahs, they get very detailed about some of these things. So, and we know God didn't leave anything out. So, we have everything we need in here, and going to any other source for religious guidance or any cultural or tradition things is number one, to be unappreciative for what God has given you, and number two, it's fallen into the same trap as many before us has fallen into, and so we don't want to be like that or repeat the same mistake as those people, because we know better. We've especially how much it's talked about in here. There's a greater punishment, I would think, for people who especially get the message, the true message, the restored message of submission, and then they deviate when it's really spelled out clear, and they have a messenger to clarify these matters as plain as day, and they still go astray. That's not good, because then everyone's going to be questioned about the things they did, and of course, upholding other sources than the Quran. It's very simple. It's very simple, in the sense like how it's told to us, and so we have to still, as submitters, we have to be careful ourselves, and constantly evaluate and examine ourselves, and help each other, support each other, because we're all in this together. God answers the prayers of His servants. Excuse me. When my servants ask you about me, I am always near. I answer their prayers when they pray to me. The people shall respond to me and believe in me in order to be guided. I always like this verse, because it's God is always near. I mean, He's with us wherever we are. He's with me. He's in this room. He's with each one of y'all listening, and we can think about this stuff even when we're driving. If we're working in remote areas, or we're gone traveling, or this and that. As submitters, we don't ever get lonely or any of that, because we're always we know God is with us. And then prior to being a submitter, personally speaking, I never had this pleasure, this joy of this, and so because at the end of the day, so to speak, all you realize all you need is God, because His presence lasts forever, and everything else perishes. Even humans perish. Our food perishes, the money, all of these things. Though even the world is going to perish. So thinking about these things like this helps bring us back, especially if we get distracted or something, or try to things of the world can pull us, you know, and yeah, so, you know, making prayers, imploring God, you know, God will answer the prayers of his servants, you know, so it's very important to constantly implore God, you know, implore him for help to be righteous today, and to repent more, you know, because sometimes we do things and we forget to repent, you know, like, and then, you know, and then we can repent for that, but we can also help God, you know, ask God to help us to better evaluate ourselves, you know, to you know, and this is just between us and God, you know, because God knows about us, and then, you know, ask God to constantly seek refuge, you know, ask God for all these things, and you know, he'll help us, you know, as long as, and this is a way of worshiping him, this is a way of thinking about our Creator, you know, and this is in order that we may be guided and really be saved by the end of all this. And what I mean by the end of all this, the end of our lives, the end of this world, and you know, because just looking around us, you know, like, where are all these people that once lived, the people that we learned about in history, whether they had a lot of money or a little money, you know, if you pass by or drive by graveyards, I mean, like, who were those people? You know, they were souls just like me and you. And I'm sure, you know, maybe I shouldn't talk in the if, you know, the if, like the if sense, but like, I'm sure, you know, people who went to the graves, and let's say they failed to worship God, or they died as an atheist, or worshiping Buddha or something, or even Jesus or Muhammad, whatever, they would probably give anything to come back and be in a position like ours to get the message. So, you know, it emphasizes, I guess, for me, the importance of all this. And then, you know, it's also, you know, happiness now and forever, like, in the sense of just making God your God. Really, we can try to aim for 100% of the day. I think, you know, I know the messenger had said 51%, and that's correct, but if we aim for like 90%, you know, we'll probably maybe do 60, at the worst, maybe that day we'll do 60% or 51%, you know, because if we aim for 51%, you know, I guess having the sense, you know, you go all in on something, and so, you know, try to think of God in everything, every single thing you do, even when you lift your arm to drink water. You know, because personally, I found this has been so helpful, because what I found afterwards, like the times I would try aim for like 100% or 99, let's just say 99%, usually when, you know, I would critically evaluate myself at the end of the day, or like the end of, like, let's say a 3-day period or something, and I would just be thinking I would usually end up maybe about 70, maybe 60%, hopefully, you know, I'm not saying I know for sure, but God willing, I would feel comfortable, like, if somebody had asked me. But in other times, you know, maybe not, you know, I don't want to, but yeah, so it's good to set that, you know, and it ties into setting the bar really high for ourselves too, which is really important, because we know this life is so important, in a sense it's our last and final chance to denounce our initial crime, and then to do well, God willing. Permitted for you is sexual intercourse with your wives. Okay, well, this one, I'm going to read this, God willing, and then I'll read this footnote. Permitted for you is sexual intercourse with your wives during the nights of fasting. They are the keepers of your secrets, and you are the keepers of their secrets. God knew that you used to betray your souls and he has redeemed you and has pardoned you. Henceforth you may have intercourse with them, seeking what God has permitted for you. You may eat and drink until the white thread of light becomes distinguishable from the dark thread of night at dawn. Then you shall fast until sunset. Sexual intercourse is prohibited if you decide to retreat to the masjid during the last 10 days of Ramadan. These are God's laws, you shall not transgress them. God thus clarifies his revelations for the people that they may attain salvation. Okay, mashallah. So we have a footnote here for 183 to 187. Like all duties in submission, fasting was decreed through Abraham in 2278. In appendices 9 and 15, we can see. Prior to revelation of the Quran, sexual intercourse was prohibited throughout the fasting period. This rule was modified in 187 to allow intercourse during the nights of Ramadan. Yeah, so, like we had discussed earlier, the modifications of God, like the verse that, I think it's in Yesur too, those used to betray their souls, but God has pardoned them and redeemed them. Or I don't know about redeem, but pardon them, and has modified these duties, so, and this also lets us know that it was decreed for those, as it says, it was decreed for those before us that, we may attain salvation, as well as, for ourselves. And, God, Satan tries to complicate the religion, because really, if you think about it, like the messenger said, 5 contact prayers, 5 nourishing meals a day, fasting during the month of Ramadan, nobody dies or anything. Even if you fast 24 hours, you'll be just fine. There's even people that have seen videos of retellings of these storage situations where people were trapped in a cave, like they were cave diving or cave exploring. They were trapped in a cave for weeks without food or water, and they lived. They were eventually found. So, just to emphasize the point that for people who and then even if we shouldn't care, like even if something because we're striving in the cause of God when we fast or we're doing this, and nothing goes to nothing is unaccredited for us, no, like the other verse that says, you don't lose or like in the cause of God, like money or something, spending, you don't, nothing goes unaccounted for, God, and God will take care of us too, we have to remember that. Bribery, corruption, condemned. You shall not take each other's money illicitly, nor shall you bribe the officials to deprive others of some of their rights illicitly while So, this is common. We see this on a small scale basis and on a large scale basis. Going all the way from places of work to, small towns, cities, states, countries, etc. So this is clearly condemned, and naturally as submitters, we're not. This stuff is repulsive to us because it's not good, it's bad, and then people who do this are only sending negative credits against their own soul, but they probably don't realize that, which is why they're doing it. But even then, some people do it, and they still know full well that it has consequences. Do not beat around the bush. They ask you about the phases of the moon. Say they provide a timing device for the people and determine the time of Hajj. It is not righteous to beat around the bush. Righteousness is attained by upholding the commandments, and by being straightforward you shall observe God that you may succeed. So this one has a footnote. The literal idiom says, do not enter the home through the back doors. The question about the phases of the moon is an example of beating around the bush. There are bad ulterior motives behind this question. Yeah, these people weren't sincere. They were probably had other motives, as we see from the footnote when something like this was asked. Instead of just asking directly what they're trying to ask, they were beating around the bush. Which I've also heard this term, is like growing up. And I'm sure where we're from or wherever we may be from, sometimes, people could do this to avoid confrontation, but it's still better to be straightforward, So if you're at work and, you need something done from somebody, or you need to know about something, it's better just to, in a nice, kind manner to let them know exactly what you need done or what the question is. Instead of being kind of, on the edge. And, sometimes we can be tricked into, doing that or thinking like that as to not step on people's toes or something. But it's better because in the same way we would, because we know how we are, we know we would want somebody to just be like, hey, just ask me directly, or what do you really want to know? Because a lot of confusion, misunderstandings. Personally, prior to being a submitter, having witnessed this myself and then seen this on both sides of the spectrum, it's not a good thing. And as submitters to God alone, we become solid and more better all around. God will continually work on us, and it's not to say we're all still improving, but just in the sense it's better to be straightforward. And it doesn't mean you're being harsh or anything. It's just being nice and straightforward, and that way everybody can be happy and have the same understanding, then be essentially on the same page. So, so no beating around the bush, Rules of war: you may fight in the cause of God against those who attack you, but do not aggress. God does not love the aggressors. You may kill those who wage war against you, and you may evict them once they evicted you. Oppression is worse than murder. Do not fight them at the sacred masjid unless they attack you there, and if they attack you, you may kill them. This is the just retribution for those disbelievers. So we have the rules of war that are very clear here, and we have a footnote. So all fighting is regulated by the basic rule in 60:8 through 9. So that's Surah 60, verse 8 through 9. Fighting is allowed strictly in self-defense, while aggression and oppression are strongly condemned throughout the Quran. So what's even in this country, America, I don't know about other countries, but you're allowed to defend yourself. But if you aggress even a little bit, even if they find a little bit, if you're in a case where you or strike first or something, or you were even excessive, if let's say you were defending yourself and you were excessive, you will be punished and through the court system. So it's kind of mashallah, it's just one of the, excuse me, it's it's kind of like how the messenger had spoken, in this country. We should be grateful, especially those of us who haven't been outside the country and haven't seen how a lot of other countries are. But there's a lot of submission type of qualities already in this country, but and of course there's a lot of non submission type behavior and qualities. But we're given strict rules of war here, and it's only in self-defense. You're not supposed to aggress or oppress, because if essentially you would end up being like these people. So this is it's laid out really clear, and we can see that the hypocrite Arabs, quote unquote Muslims, don't follow this, and that's why they set the worst example for the rest of the world. And you can see hundreds of millions of people are completely repulsed by it, rightfully so. And it's not like they're not repulsed by true Islam, repulsed by not even Israelites, they're just repulsed by satanic doctrine and religion, which naturally they should be. I mean, if you're killing people unjustly and stuff, and oppressing the women, and the list goes on. I mean, even we are, but that's done under the name of Islam, and we know the truth. And I mean, more people are finding out about this stuff. But that's all the more reason why, as submitters, if you call yourself a submitter, and you're advocating for essentially Zionistic, Talmudic Babylon 2.0, which that is the globalist agenda, and you're advocating for these people who are inherently wicked. You're setting a horrible example, and you're going to be responsible for probably people already that have that get repulsed, because just your average person with any sense of morality is not going to side, even if they're an atheist. They don't side with such evil doctrines and such evil people. So this is why you have to be careful and not promote this type of stuff, whether it's from Arabs or whether it's from Jewish, or whether it's even from Christians. It doesn't matter the group or the faction of people. Because at the end of the day, it's people aren't going to be defined by, oh, I'm a Catholic, oh, I'm a Jew, oh, I'm a Christian, oh, I'm a Muslim, Protestant, etc. No, they're defined by their actions. So evil is evil at the end of the day, and lying to yourself and saying, oh, it's in the name of this or that or Zionism. These people are just blocked out, and they're repeating the same exact mistake as we've seen with the Arabs. They're going astray in the same exact way, and because all the people I've talked to, the Christians, decent people, I mean, quote unquote Christians, because they're idol worshippers of Jesus, but they're repulsed. The whole world is repulsed by what was done, and here you are. There's pseudo submitters advocating for these type of people and this type of behavior, and it's not even the people. It's just you're advocating for something so terrible, and your ego won't let you let it go and see that you're wrong, and so it's really to their own detriment, and so we have to do our part and advocate as submitters against this type of behavior, and and promote the truth, because I mean, personally, there was a few people I've talked to that aren't even, could be on the verge of submission out here in West Texas, and this was last year, and they're hearing about these things, and they would be abhorred if they think submission promoted this. So and these are just a few people. I mean, it's much more than that if you look online. So it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. What's happening, exactly what the Arabs did to repulse millions of people, of Christians and stuff. But in the same token, we do realize that God is the only one who guides. So if these people are meant to be guided, they'll be able to, see through the facade of lies, and then look. But it all comes down to how willing people are to look for the truth and search for the truth. And like Cert 39 says, they examine all words and choose the best. So this is what we have to do as well. And it's all part of this test of life. Evaluating different things, different situations, different people, and then ultimately choosing God, and keeping it simple in the sense like ABC 1, 2, 3, like like follow the Quran, follow the Messenger, follow the Quran, follow the Messenger, and be happy really, because when you're following people or religious leaders or well, yeah, it's interesting. Or following religious leaders or your scholars or pastors and stuff, you end up making these people as idols, and you have to break away from that, if you haven't already. If they refrain, and God is forgiver, most merciful, you may also fight them to eliminate oppression and to worship God freely. If they refrain, you shall not aggress. Aggression is permitted only against the aggressors. During the sacred months, aggression may be met by an equivalent response. If they attack you, you may retaliate by inflicting an equitable retribution. You shall observe God and know that God is with the righteous. You shall spend in the cause of God. Do not throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction. You shall be charitable. God loves the charitable. So this is, we're invited to spend in the cause of God. And, we know from the verses, anything we spend will be repaid back to us. And we're not doing it because of that. We're doing it because we know God possesses everything in the heavens and the earth. And all these things are just part of the temporary illusion that's going to be here and gone, like before we even know it. And I say before we know it, I mean we know like we're in this life and we're in the test, and every one of us has to leave. But reminding ourselves, making this a zikr, this is something actually I started doing like I think 4 days ago, about just the life being a temporary illusion, especially so to not get especially maybe if you're going through a test, or something, or whether it's a blessing, adversity, not to be distracted, because we can see what happened with Solomon and his horses, and we also see what Job's the other end of the spectrum. So, it's the real life is the one after this one, and so God loves the charitable, so this is, wouldn't we, attaining the love of our Creator, wouldn't this like be the top priority? So this is another like way to be encouraged, to spend in the cause of God. And so 196, so that's the next footnote. Hajj and Umrah pilgrimage. You shall observe the complete rites of Hajj and Umrah for God. If you are prevented, you shall send an offering and do not resume cutting your hair until your offering has reached its destination. If you are ill or suffering a head injury and you must cut your hair, you shall expiate by fasting or giving to charity or some other form of worship. During the normal Hajj, if you break the state of Ihram, sanctity between Umrah and Hajj, you shall expiate by offering an animal sacrifice. If you cannot afford it, you shall fast 3 days during Hajj and 7 when you return home. This completes 10, provided you do not live at the sacred masjid. You shall observe God and know that God is strict in enforcing retribution. So we have I think we have a footnote. So see the details of Hajj and Umrah in Appendix 15. So, yeah, so we have all the details here, and if you want to look more at the details, Appendix 15 highlights and explains this, for us. The 4 months of Hajj, Zul Hijjah, Muharram, Safar, and Rabi, if I'm saying that right. Hajj shall be observed in the specified months. Whoever sets out to observe Hajj shall refrain from sexual intercourse, misconduct, and arguments throughout Hajj. Whatever good you do, God is fully aware thereof. As you prepare your provisions for the journey, the best provision is righteousness. You shall observe me, O you who possess intelligence. So the footnote reads, Hajj can be observed at any time during the sacred months of Zul Hijjah, Muharram, Safar, and Rabi. Local governments restrict Hajj to a few days for their own convenience. So, we see this has been the case with right now, and this is just one way that really Satan will try to complicate things indirectly or directly through through these people, through local governments in Saudi Arabia and whatever city state this is at. But yeah, I think for those who have want to know, you can still go, but I think you just maybe you could talk about that, but you could just do it. You could still go at this time, even though it's not when everybody else in the world is going. Yeah, it just shows their lack of reverence and appreciation for God. How much they disregard the Quran. When it's spelled, out. So. And with that being said, if there's any comments or questions, please feel free. Thank you. And if I made any mistakes, may God forgive me.
MashaAllah, thank you, brother.
Inshallah, thank you, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Jaffer.
Alaikum salam. I missed the study, I think. Is it finished?
Yeah, brother, we read, I think we read from 182.
Oh, okay, I'll check on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, we just finished the reading, but the study is still going on.
Okay, okay, mashallah.
We just did the reading.
Okay, I'll read quickly, inshallah. Let's see. We started from chapter 3, you said, brother?
Surah 2, 183.
Oh, to 183, okay.
182, actually. Sorry.
Yes, so I'm reading here 185. It's about fasting in the Ramadan. Yeah, this is something I actually wanted to ask. So, um, in the special days for women, is it that they can choose not to do the fasting, or is it that they should not
No,
fast at
no,
that?
Jafar. That's a hadith.
Yeah, that's the hadith, right? Yeah. So they just
No,
can
they can
actually if.
fast. No, they need to fast.
Oh no, no, I know they need to, but like if it becomes difficult, right? If they have any issues, right? I'm not sure, and I don't know exactly how it is, but
No,
um,
it doesn't say anything about the women. It says you should fast, and if you're ill or traveling, it doesn't say anything about women. So if you're ill or traveling, you can substitute other days. That goes for both men and women. But in traditional Islam, in Hadith and Sunnah, they have Hadiths that women should not fast if they're menstruating. So that is
mhm.
in Quran.
Oh, okay. And sometimes some women have difficulties, like it becomes very difficult for them to do that at when they have these days.
I mean, yeah, it's possible.
Some kind of an illness maybe considered for them. Because
Yeah,
it's not the same for everyone, right? But again, I'm not really
right.
sure, of course.
Yeah.
If it makes it very difficult, like you have a lot of pain and you have very difficulties fasting, then it can be considered as if you're ill,
Um,
maybe.
I mean, it's talking about illness if you're ill or traveling, right? But
Mhm,
those who can fast, but with great difficulty. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, it's not really an illness, first of all, right? I mean, it's just difficult for them. Like, for example, what I can think of. I mean, obviously, I'm not a woman, but like say, they may have a lot of pain and they need painkillers. I mean, it's not like severe to the point where hopefully that they can't. continue their fast. But yeah, if it becomes unbearable for whatever reason, if it becomes unbearable, I mean, yeah, then they can substitute another day.
But
But
in,
something like that is easily avoidable. Like, you know, you feel like you need to have your period. I mean, you can just take a painkiller. You know, so
yeah, okay. Yeah, but
the breakfast
when they are not doing it,
will
it's
feel.
because of that hadith, right? Because they think, oh, I cannot
Yeah,
do it
yeah.
because
Mhm.
yeah, because I was always wondering, like, is it really very difficult at those moments that you decide not to do your fasting, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with hunger, for example, right? Or anything like that.
I get it. Even if you don't eat, even if you would eat, you would still have maybe some difficulty, but
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
eating doesn't help with periods, right? It's just they have pain and discomfort, and maybe you could say a painkiller would help, and so like, I mean, that's all that I understand that is. I mean, emotional, obviously, they may be, but nothing that would prevent you from fasting itself.
Yeah, they use also the same excuse not to pray, right? Like, then it's just the same
Yeah,
excuse.
yeah. I mean, it's not that the women make excuses, right? It's what the imams dictate to them, saying that they're unclean, they cannot do it. You know, they're dirty, impure, or whatever.
Oh, okay. Because I always thought, that they weren't doing it because they were in like like it's maybe very painful and they need to take something. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
I get that.
Yeah, I mean, they
Okay.
tell them they can't read Quran. They tell them they can't do their prayers. They can't. They tell them they can't do their fasting. You know, it's like Satan's trying to keep them away from consistently doing their
Yeah,
obligations.
and what they most of the time say is like because at that moment women are impure, like,
Mm-hmm.
and because they are impure, they cannot touch the Quran, they cannot pray, and they cannot
Mm-hmm.
fast, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's mainly the thing, yeah. But with fasting, I always thought it has really to do something with like you being in very pain, and if you're going to fast, then it's going to make it, you get more sick or
Mm-hmm.
so. But
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, it's like someone having a severe headache. Like, I mean, you know, I mean, if they are having a really bad headache, like if it's really incredibly bad, you know, like they feel like there's an explode or something,
Yeah.
so fast, they have to substitute another day.
And then it says you can decide like in a day which is not difficult for you, so you can decide to redo that day like after a few months maybe. Like there's not a specific thing for that, right? Like you can decide to do it after 2 months or 3 months, or maybe if it was on a summer day and you want to redo it on a winter day, that's not an issue, right?
Technically, no. What?
Yeah, because or
What
else
I've.
it would have stated there like
You can redo it on a summer day to get like more credit
yeah.
and like to make sure they're safer. That's just what it was.
Mhm.
God,
Yeah,
But
but
does it work like that?
yeah, but then also God says that is fasting, but fasting is best for you if you own anyone.
Exactly.
You know, so
Yeah.
if you
It's
can
better.
fast with hardship too, like the better option for us, even in the Quran, is telling us to fast and to be fasting. Because imagine you're going through some hardship, some pain, like you know you have some pain, or you know you're traveling. Let's say like you know if you let's say you're traveling on the from like the east to the west side, you know, let's say you're going from the Middle East to the US or something, right? Your fast is gonna become like 7, 8 hours longer, you know? So that's traveling when you're traveling. So you have the option to do it another day where you don't have to fast an extra 8 hours, right? Let's say. But, you know, if you know,
Yeah, but if you still do it in hardship, like, yeah, that's even better.
Right. I think Suleiman, he's still there. I think his data. Can you hear him?
I can hear you, but I can't hear Suleiman.
Yeah,
He
man.
has a
His mic is not on.
No, I think he is the red.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
he is.
yeah.
He'll probably
okay.
reconnect shortly, God willing. But yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with fasting is the best for us because it's sometimes like if it gets difficult or if you're really thirsty and you're working or something outside, you just tell yourself, like this is just temporary and you're doing it for God and you know it's good for you too. Like it's
It's also very healthy. Yeah.
yeah. And then you're subduing the white horse more, kind of like the messenger said. Like it's almost like you're not training yourself, but like you're improving yourself or strengthening yourself in the sense. So like, say you had to, uh, it makes, let's say for example, it makes getting up for dawn prayer easier. Just going through these really difficult days because your body wants to eat, but you're training it like no, you're gonna listen to the soul. So in the same that translates over the course of time to you being able to wake up easier for say or something else
It's
or
gonna
maybe
become easier.
in any other like submission situation, like even with people, like you're much stronger, you have like zero temptation to like let's say digress into gossiping with people like no because the body or your jinn may wanna but I mean as submitters we know that's just an example. But I think that's one way, to look at it. Why it's or really I should have said like so if you see people gossiping, like let's say you didn't want to correct them in the past because you work with them or something, but like now like you can do it in a nice way and be like or try to talk about something else. Like I've had to tell people like hey I don't think we should say that about, and people are shocked. People are like oh my gosh like. Because they never get that before. Like, hey, I don't think we should be talking about, like, because people are afraid to speak up sometimes, and but if we're, defending somebody or being, just inviting them, reminding them about God, like, hey, we shouldn't do that. This isn't good for our souls and stuff, or you can just tell them, like, let's talk about something else, because the ego doesn't want you to say anything, your body kind of like, but like getting ourselves stronger in that sense, like we don't care, like with like we just have to do our part, and but I hope that made sense.
Yeah, it does, brother. And there was also this other thing. I'm by the way also reading the verses. In 195, it says, "You shall spend in the cause of God. Do not throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction. You shall be charitable. God loves the charitable." So should we understand from this verse, like when God says, "Do not throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction," does it mean like you need to be charitable, then, but be careful not to give everything away that you are left with nothing? Like, does it mean this one, or does it mean like if you don't do charity, then you are basically destroying yourself? You're destroying your soul.
Yeah, how I understand it is like if someone doesn't give charity and they just um have money and they're just doing evil stuff with it and they're not giving charity. That's how I understand it. But maybe other people can give their thoughts.
It says, "You shall spend in the cause of God. Do not throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction." Like,
That's a good
if
question.
you don't.
I was kind of wondering the same thing too. Is it like
Because there is also, brother, because there is also this other verse. Remember where it says they help even when they themselves need help. They help other while even they themselves need help. So that means that if I need help, and a submitter should still help others while while you need it too. So that's a little bit different than but yeah, like now it seems to me as if it has to do with maybe like destroying yourselves, like do not throw
by not
yourselves with
spending
your
in the
hands.
cause of God. That's
Yeah.
that's how I saw it at first, because it's saying you shall spend the cause of God, and you shall be charitable after. If you don't, you're gonna end up throwing yourselves into your own
Destroying.
destruction.
Mhm.
You're gonna destroy yourselves
Yeah.
through stinginess and other things. And then it said, yeah, God
Yeah.
loves the charitable. So
Yeah, and there's also another verse where, please correct me if I'm wrong, where, when you, and I remember Suleiman talking about this as well, like we shouldn't exaggerate in some things as well, like we need to be careful with that, like with exaggeration, even. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know that verse, brother? Where it says that?
Yeah, I remember we were talking about with Suleiman about it. Yeah, so like you need to be charitable, but then you should be careful as well, Yes, that one. Yes, that one exactly.
Yeah, but Jeff, also that applies too. Like when you don't have too much, that same rule applies. If you don't have too much, you still give, but you're not exaggerating. You're not extravagant. I mean, like you give what you can.
Like be charitable. Don't be stingy, because if you're being stingy, you're going to destroy yourself, basically. Like you're destroying your soul. And while giving, don't exaggerate with even doing that.
Mm.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Mhm. Mm. Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Mm.
Also, I think it's an audio one where the messenger of the covenant explains, that you have like um the Quran, it's you have your rights and you can stand up for your rights. And he agrees with that. He says, like this is Quranic, you could stand up for your rights according to Quran, but he also stresses the fact of patience, and he agrees with both point of views, It's audio one, I believe. Mhm. Mashallah. And it's not like it's easy, Brother John. It's not like it's easy, It really takes observing God, and knowing that God is running everything,
Right?
being patient in a situation like that.
Yeah. No, no, no. It's definitely. Yeah, it's not easy. And also, like in the times of war, it's also to set precedents for people. Like I read a verse the other day. Um, if yeah. And same with striving. We have to come up with ways to strive because we don't want to be like people who said if we knew how to fight in the cause of God, we would fight. And obviously nobody's hitting us or fighting against us, but uh, you know, um, but like in the sense of things being virtual and the world we live in, we have to advocate the truth and defend the message in the best possible manner too. As we've talked about in the last Quran study, because it's easy to, we don't want to aggress, and this is another thing. Like these verses are applicable, online. Like if you start attacking, I'm not saying like any of us, but like if someone starts attacking somebody online, that's aggression, and that's very bad. In the same way, it's not like carried out physically, but it's the same rules apply across the board. So, you know.
I think Brother Suleiman is having trouble connection, maybe.
Yeah, and another one, like believers, the ultimate victors, fighting may be imposed on you, even though you dislike it. But you may dislike something which is good for you, and you may like something which is bad for you. God knows why you do not know. So that's in 2:16. So if like other verses, if it's decreed for us, we have to, it's only going to be in the cause of God, because it brought up the messengers point, if it's a personal matter or somebody just randomly hits you, you shouldn't. It would be better for you not to not to hit that person back. But if it's in the cause of God, you have to, because else you're, we don't want to end up like.
MashaAllah, Rabban. SubhanAllah.
And people like who are bad will look at these verses and they'll be like, "Oh, look, the Quran, it promotes this or that, But this is, it doesn't even bother, shouldn't bother us at all. I mean, God willing, it won't. But because everything's gonna be, judged. Everyone has to face judgment, and like the verses say, God's going to be the judge over all these people's disputes. And I mean, even our disputes, which is kind of scary and alarming in a sense, like, making sure we have, like we're advocating righteousness and doing our part to promote the truth, regardless of what, not acquiescing to the people's wishes either.
Sure. Also, brother, it's not very true too. Like how you say that people repulse people, from the religion, but you also explain how it's the other people don't have no excuse either, because why they don't investigate, why they don't, like you use the example like how people do so much like for worldly things, they investigate so much for like this like stuff of this world, but like why they don't have that same attitude for the truth, for God alone,
Yeah, exactly.
really the only true wealth, brother, if you actually think about it.
Yeah, it's the bet. It is, and because just look at like these millionaires and stuff that are in the grave, billionaires that have nothing. And if you know, it's funny if you all read like some of these famous people, wealthy or not, but even the really, really wealthy ones, what suddenly they all turn not so righteous before they die, but but they get very reflective upon their life's choices and be like, okay, what did I do this for? Like, all this money can't help me. Like the Quran says, it can't save him or spare him the retribution. So yeah, the real wealth is with God, and He possesses everything on this earth. So these people are. It's not. We don't even own anything. We're just given it so freely by God. I was thinking the other day. I was like, I was working with somebody and I was looking at them, and this person, wasn't. He didn't look like a Semitic or anything, but I was just thinking, I was like, man, just how good every single one of us has it. Like, even if this individual, we're still, we can't even put a dollar amount on how rich we are in that sense, like with our eyesight, because even if you had $5 trillion, you couldn't get new eyeballs and have them hooked up to your brain, and then have the cornea and the pupils all working, those fine muscles. It's so complex. $5 trillion couldn't even do that. And even more. So it's if you think about it like that, like it's
yeah, like you said the other time, brother, when we were talking, like they will give everything,
Yeah.
for something like that, for like their eyes to work again. They will give.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And thinking about these things too, like we talked about it, it reminds us like how really blessed we are, and how merciful God really is, and it should make us be more appreciative, of these things, of the things that we just have, and like it's just you can never really like once you really think about it, you can never be more appreciative, but like the fingers and hands, the eyes, like it's the messenger talks about it too, how like it talks about people take all this for granted, and as submitters we have to think about these things, like think like we talk about, like think about our eyes, the taste, He says that one of the others, he says that you take it for granted that you walk on one leg, and that's so true. I never thought about that until he said that, you really do, like when you're walking, you stand, like you're in one leg,
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Like,
When he first said that, I had to think about it. I'm like, wait, let me think about this for a second. Yeah, he's like, yeah, he's right. We are walking. We're only on one leg all the time. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, and the more, right. The more we think about these things, the better. And then, right, walking is very normal for most of us. It is, and that's what, that's also, I think, what makes the test is, these things are so normal for us, and yeah, we take it for granted. But, yeah, like me and you, Raphael, we've talked, and, when I put myself, like, vicariously or mentally in these situations, or, like, even, like, I think a week ago, I was thinking, like, really thinking about, like, okay, what it would be like, not to exist, or, like, not to enjoy, like, the taste of watermelon, like I just ate some earlier, and I'm drinking tea, and I'm just sitting in my chair, like, so comfortable, and it's like, what if you didn't even exist to enjoy these things? Like, like, it would be like hell. It's kind of hard to, but whatever works, whatever works for people, they can come up with little ways, and mashallah, it starts to change your perspective and stuff, and because that's the two pat water. Yeah, and then there's like other varieties. Like I can just go to the store and buy like different types of fruits. Like I mean, how lucky are we? Really, because and we're rebels, too. Like God made all this. Like the messenger talked about. Like will we, me, you, or any of us here, will we give like prisoners of war who did these, committed this horrible crime? How would we feed them like steak and lobster? Probably not. We'd probably just give them like gruel or something, which is.
I don't know. Yeah. So
Yeah.
true.
We wouldn't be like we'd be like, no way, this person doesn't, but God is the most kind towards the people.
Yeah, I mean, even the people that go to jail here, their food is not very good,
Right.
and like God has blessed us with like, trees that grow these beautiful taste, such good sweet taste, and all different kind of flavors, from trees, and it's like, yeah, mashallah, I never thought about it that way. It's so true, because like you said, we're rebels, we're here to try to, we're here to really give it all, like, this is our last chance, for redemption. And that's why we're here, and we're here because we committed a terrible crime, and like you said, like people in this world, like, you do a crime or something, like, you're in such a bad place, like they have closed in, like you're like, but that's so, like, mashallah,
They're
bro.
not going to show you mercy or be nice to you. Even the nicest people, let's say, that are in charge of your punishment, they're just still going to be mean to you. But like, we're not. God is the most kind towards the people, and He's given us all these things, and because the messenger is essentially like we waged war on God. Like those are the words he used in that same audio. In the sense, it's, we don't remember it, but we believe it, because we're here. And like, what would you do if somebody, you're in let's say you're an army commander or something, or a general, and like somebody waged war, and let's just say you're fighting in the cause of God. I mean, of course, like we're told to be merciful and patient, but I mean, putting ourselves in these situations to like appreciate God even more. And also we can never fathom the greatness of God too. In Surah 39, we can only, just like I've seen a picture of a nebula, like those little astrophotography groups I'm in. I've seen some pictures like with these people set up like $5,000 to $15,000, but you don't need to have NASA to look at this stuff. But there's these huge high-powered telescopes like the size of probably. They're like size of a TV that just people can have, like that have as their hobbies. And I've seen some pictures, and it's, just the size of these things, these nebulas and these, stars that previously existed, and just all these different, and just the colors too. Imagine if everything was in black and white. It could have been that way. We wouldn't know, but mashallah, we have colors and stuff to enjoy and like distinguish.
Mashallah.
Yeah, like imagine if we were like in the 1950s, how we'd watch TV, and everything was black and white. But seriously, it could have been like that. And then let's say, if in paradise in the next life there would be color or something. But God gives us color here now. Like it's so nice. Like you have red, blue, and all types of colors too. Yeah, we wouldn't know the difference, right?
Yeah, but then, going back to that example you gave, that's why these people not these people, none of us, no one is gonna have an excuse in the day of judgment, because we had it. God was so merciful to us, for this final chance, and no one will have an excuse, on the day of judgment because of God's mercy. He made, like God says in the Quran, He made everything easy for us.
Exactly. Yeah. He said, I made everything easy for him, but he's grieved more.
Mhm.
Yeah, we would have been in hell now, right? Yeah. If it was not for God. Yeah, especially thinking, how we don't, God doesn't need any of us. Like, he's in no need of us, and there would have been, we could have just been put in hell and, like, not even been given another thought, by the angels or by God, or no one would have cared. For us, we're just in hell. And then this is, like the messenger said, like, would you not love, would this not make you love God?
That's
Because, like, you have creatures that rebel against the most supreme authority. I mean, we can never even fathom the greatness of God. So, like, they're really just, like, the way I see it, like, this, like, ignoramus, part of it. I mean, just terrible stupidity, blasphemy, grossness. I mean, that's how, it's called a gross blasphemy, horrendous crime. To do this to our Creator, and then he's the most merciful. He's like you said, he's decreed one of the attributes. He's decreed mercy is his attribute, like the verse says. And it's interesting too. I've talked to somebody. We should be very grateful towards God for his mercy. That's what Brother Jaffer. He could also choose to send all to hell. Imagine what we would do to stop nothing, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we couldn't do a thing, We would be there stuck, and then we'd still be there. And, there would be no heavens, no creation of the heavens and earth. There would be nothing. No, even on this earth, no sunlight to enjoy, or watermelon to eat, or nice things. And, of course, like, we're still on the test and stuff, like, in this world, and we have to work hard to make it. And really, only God can help us, because we can't help ourselves. We can't pass these tests. Like, God can help us pass these tests, because if we think we can do it by ourselves, the world is still much, much better than that. Yeah.
Yeah, right, Brother Jeff, because we have a chance.
Yeah, we have a chance.
We have a chance, to be redeemed. After, when the day of judgment comes, when God comes, there's not going to be that no more,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, it's the most serious thing, like, what the position we're in, like, more serious than any work or money or job, or even our own, family or spouses or children. Like, we have our own necks, everyone worried about their own necks, in a sense, in the sense to, like, stress the importance of, like, we're here, and we're at, like, a crucial point, because like, every day brings us closer to I think, isn't that a verse? It says there's a verse that, like, I don't remember, but I mean, just speaking, and generally, every day brings us closer to the day of judgment. Really closer to the end of our life too. Because some of us might live another 40, 50 years, and then that's going to pass by pretty quickly. And then we're going to remember this conversation too, which is like, we're going to see that, like, may God help us.
Sure.
Yeah, like, imagine remembering, talking about this too, like, how we're remembering that we're going to see this, we're going to remember this meeting. Even the people listening and watching are going to, that's kind of why, like, I mean, inviting in the best manner and stuff, and being very kind to the people, and even if it's just as simple as just giving them, like, a little brochure, because imagine, like, this interaction I had with this person, and then there's a way for, like, okay, I could have told them something, or like, and not, like we have the verse in the Quran where it says, you're not blamed for what they commit. I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but you're not responsible for their sins or what they do or they commit or their utterances. I think there's like 1 or 2 verses about that. But also in the sense, like, man, if I was that person, like, just, around in life, like, I would want somebody to give me a brochure or a message, or even just if you don't even have to be like, hey, if it makes sense, you get to know the person, you're working with them, and you talk to them, and after like a day or a week or something, if the topic comes up, you can just give them a link. It doesn't have to be, and that's all you do. Now the ball is in their court. And I mean, they can't say, on the day, oh, the message didn't come to me, or I mean, neither can any of us. I mean, but God is the only one who guides. Yeah, Brother Joffrey said those, verse 51, those who do not take their religion seriously and are totally preoccupied with this worldly life, we forget them on that day because they forgot that day, and because they spurned our revelations, the dwellers of hell will call on the dwellers of paradise, let some of your water or some of God's provisions to you flow towards us. They will say God has forbidden them for the disbelievers. We have given them a scripture that is fully detailed with knowledge, guidance, and mercy for the people who believe. Yes, and no excuse. Yeah, it's all like for the disbelievers and people who are oblivious to God. It's all just temporary enjoyment, and some people full well know like that it's they're willing to actually trade temporary enjoyment for like the hereafter. Like I've talked to people that are like, oh no, just like like we read, like there's people that are think they're gonna go to hell to burn off their sins for 5 to 10 years or whatever it is, or 5 minutes. I don't know. And then they're gonna but like imagine that would just having that type of thought train is very backwards. Okay, so 52 comes after 50 and 51. Yeah, so it was 50 first, the dwellers of hell will call, and then it was 50 on those who do not take the religion seriously. Yeah, preoccupation with this life is condemned, and we see so many people on a daily basis. We work with them, we see it on the TV, or that other people are preoccupied, but we're reminded that that's not the life. This is not the thing. This is not the okay thing to do. They would be the same thing. Most people are following the majority. That's kind of like the subconscious thought. I guess people can have, because they see they're not really worried about worshiping God, or even, someone told me like they'll wait till they're after right when they get close to 40. But it could be because they're seeing all these other people completely oblivious to God, and they're like, okay, well they're all doing it, it's going to be okay. Like nothing's bad happening to them. They're all just going through life, living, being provided for, right? But God tells us the provisions. They're not, people who aren't fortunate enough to make it aren't going to have any provisions.
Right. And this all, mashallah, like all this, everything in the Quran is mathematically composed, so it's according to God, it's already done,
Yeah.
These things, absolutely is the truth, everything in the Quran is the truth.
Yeah, Brother Joffrey said, are they waiting for the prophecies until all prophecies are fulfilled? The day such fulfillment comes to pass, those who disregarded it in the past will say, the messengers of our Lord have brought the truth. Are there any intercessors to intercede on our behalf? Would you send us back so that we may change our behavior or do better works than what we did? They have lost their souls, and their own innovations have caused their doom. Send us back so we so we change. Yeah, it's too late.
Yeah, you see, brother, how it says, and their own innovations,
Right.
like things that they add, things that don't belong in the religion of God.
Yeah, exactly. It's better, man, just to be safe. We as submitters, because we take it seriously. Like, there's no room. Like, there's only God alone, and following what God brought, the Quran, and then with the messenger, how he clarified these things for us. He was sent as a clarifying messenger and as well as a warner. And he's also he had duties too. The mathematical miracle was the miracle he brought, and then the purifying. He's a purifying messenger of the contact prayers, the entire religion, the submission, the fasting, the charity, all of this. Thank God we know this, because imagine we're truly blessed to be like living at a time, especially before the victory and stuff. So because it's going to be much easier for people to kind of hop on the train, which is still good, but like the messenger said himself, like once everybody, mobilizing hundreds of thousands, millions, it's going to be kind of normal. Like, okay, let's be a submitter, but having to be a submitter in a time where, you could be mocked or looked at, even if you're not mocked or ridiculed, you're going to be looked at as like, oh, this person is far astray, but we don't care about that, because it's all temporary. We're not even gonna, it's like we're here and gone for like a few seconds, like, like it seems, because like God, subhanAllah, it's another amazing, like how he even creates these systems, like time and respite and the earth. We shouldn't care, exactly, right? Laugh at them, says the messenger, right? Yeah, because people could say some very harsh and horrible things, and like having to see this with your own eyes, mashallah, God strengthens you, but like it's I don't even remember half of the stuff. It's been like wiped from my memory, mashallah, but for the time it was like, man, people are so bad. But in a sense too, you realize like it's really Satan behind it, and then it kind of you don't get offended, or you actually, I think maybe you could become more reverent, because it's like Satan's behind this stuff, and you just immediately run back to God, and like like these people are just advocating Satan's point of view. It's really as simple as that, Right. Yeah, if you do get offended, it shows you still have ego, says the messenger. Right. Right, because it's not we're trying to prove these people wrong or something. And it's not to say we can, like for example, like somebody said horrible things about Muhammad or something, and then I corrected them in a very polite way, and I actually used GBT to help me. I wrote something up and I said, just use this, and then it was very nice, and then the person's response was actually kind of like, it was actually good. It was like, maybe I should more research, but then they're I said, and then I told him, I said, like, we need to investigate things before we openly speak. I said, may God help us all and guide us, and so. But because most, it's all temporary, these but thank God, we're not with such people. It's like, we still have a lot to do, like in our submission and passing our tests, and staying on the right path. But like God says, we're not responsible for their utterances, or you may blame yourself that they let me see what the verse is. Like, I'm sure if we've talked to people before and we're like, oh, could I've given that person the message, like, in a better way, but, you know, we know that. You may blame yourself on account of their response to this narration or disbelieving it. You may be saddened. You know, so, and then the next verse, so that was in Surah 18. But, mashallah, I mean, God takes care of, like, every situation, you know, that may come into our head or we may think of in the Quran. But, you know, like, we know we don't, we're indifferent to their responses, and we just do our part. That's all that matters. And, so are there any other comments or questions from anybody? Brother Raphael, were you saying something?
No, brother.
Oh, okay. So if there's no other comments or questions, God willing, we can conclude. So thank you all for joining. Stay tuned for our next Quran study on Saturday, God willing. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.